Okay, Anna, so thank you very much for joining us today. So Anna got a really high score in writing, and she has agreed to give you guys some help with your writing. She got band 7.5, which is extremely high for someone who's doing the IELTS writing test. So welcome, Anna. And can you just start by giving us a little bit of background, where you're from, your job, things like that?
Yeah, sure. Well, my name is Ana. I'm from Colombia. I work as a chemical engineer about since 8 years ago. And right now I'm trying to move to another country so that I can work there as a chemical engineer.
Mm-hmm. Where are you hoping to move to?
My first option is Australia. Then comes New Zealand.
I prefer New Zealand. It's an amazing place. Australia is a great
Really?
place, but New Zealand is well. I just like quiet, and I like the countryside and things like that. So yeah,
Okay.
but both are great. So Anna, how many times did you do your IELTS test?
Well, this is my second time. The first time was 13 years ago. So
Wow.
I didn't get that a really good high score in that time. But it was all I needed. So I didn't try it again. Until now,
Mm-hmm.
that I needed at least 7 in each one of the parts.
Mm-hmm. And what scores did you get this time?
This time was 7 for speaking, 7 for reading, 8 for listening, and 7.5 for writing.
Mm-hmm. And 7.5 in writing it's kind of the target for lots and lots of people. Like a lot of doctors, for example, need band 7.5, and it's very, very difficult to get there. Oh, what were you struggling with your writing before you did the test? Was there anything that you found difficult or you were worried about before you did the test?
Yes, I really didn't know how to make an essay in English. I mean, you have this huge amount of ideas in your head, and then you just try to write, but you just don't know the structure, and that's why I came to you, and everything changed.
And if you were to give someone some advice, so it could be just one thing or multiple things, what would you give? What would you say to people who are hoping to get a band 7, 7.5, 8 in IELTS writing?
Okay, for me, what really worked out was the IELTS writing service, the correction service, because I could see what my mistakes were, and once you know what your mistakes are, you just have to tackle them. Yes, and then you have to. I mean, that's what I did. I follow each step of the structure. For example, the introduction. I tried to master the introduction. Then the paragraphs. Each paragraph has its own structure.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to. What I did was try to master each part of this essay.
Mm-hmm.
So the introduction, then paragraphs, then the conclusion. Okay.
Mm-hmm. So you did everything in a very step-by-step way.
Yes.
You broke it down. Yeah, I mean that's excellent advice, because what happens with not just IELTS writing, but anything that people are trying to achieve, it's kind of it is a big goal, and they see it's kind of like looking at the top of a mountain, and instead of realizing that all you have to do to get up a mountain is put one step in front of the other. So that's what you did. Instead of looking at the big goal, you just broke it down into little pieces and worked on each piece. So that's great advice for anybody. Anything else you would say to students?
Yes, please, just at least 2 or 3 minutes at the end to proofread. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
I always made some kind of silly mistake. I mean, this is very important. Like 2 or 3 minutes at the end to just read again and proofread and correct any mistakes.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I would advise.
Mm-hmm. And what would you say to someone who says, I don't have time to do that, I'm really struggling with timing, how do I get to the point where I have, 2 or 3 minutes at the end of task 1 and task 2? How would you help them with that?
Okay, I would say that it's like another part of the essay. Okay, it's like you have to do it. I mean, it's not optional. It's not a choice. I mean, if you want to have a good score, I mean, that worked for me. Just train yourself so that you can always leave just 2 minutes at least. I mean, 2 minutes. Or 1 minute, I don't know. But do it. You have to do it. It's very important.
Yeah, that's a really good piece of advice, is to see it as a crucial part of doing your essay. Like, it's a non-negotiable part of doing your essay. Because what a lot of people do is they don't take into consideration planning and checking and things like that. So if you don't do it when you're practicing at home, you'll never do it in the real exam. So that's really great piece of advice. Did you do academic or general training?
I did academic.
Academic. Any tips for people with academic? Anything in that area?
Well, the only difference between academic and general is the task 1.
Yeah.
So I would advise that you have to master each kind of question in task 1. I mean, don't leave it behind. Don't focus only on task 2. Task 1 is also important. I got a map, so I remember that I was begging to not get a map, but I did get a map because for me it was easier, like a line graph or bar chart. But never mind. I did train these kind of maps, so. You have to train it. You have to master kind of question.
That's excellent advice, because a lot of people ignore maps and process diagrams and tables and everything else. So if you get that in the real test and you've prepared for it, you're at a massive advantage compared to anybody else who hasn't prepared for it. So Anna, those are real golden nuggets of advice. Thank you very much for sharing that with everybody. And when do you hope to move to Australia or New Zealand?
Oh, well, I hope to do that in a year. I hope so. I mean, this is a really long process. You cannot imagine.
I can't imagine. I have a wife from Vietnam, and I can't imagine all of the paperwork and all of the things. We had to do the same thing when we were moving from Vietnam to the UK. So, and I hated it. I hate paperwork and all of those things. So I understand what it's saying. But at least you got the most important piece of paper, which is the IELTS test. So you'll not have to worry about that. So thank you very much, Anna. If you need anything, just let me know. And thanks again for sharing your knowledge with everybody else.
You're most welcome, and thanks to you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.